Welcome to TKtv. This is the Tuesday Knight Playcast. I'm Alan Girding. I'm co-owner of Tuesday Knight Games. We make games. We're here to talk about the stories we make while we play the games we like with the people we love. And tonight, who do we love? We're here with Bruno Faidutti, and we're going to have some honest conversations. We're going to talk about his prolific game design. He's made so many games. It's ridiculous. I'm going to crush on him a bit. He also got into a bit of hot water recently with some comments he made on Facebook and Twitter about alcohol. And so we're definitely going to dive into that and talk about culture, accountability. Basically, we're going to talk about the stories that we make while playing the games we love and why it's important to have these conversations around the gaming table and why it's so wonderful to be joined together around the gaming table. I've said it once, I'll say it a million times. I actually don't like board games, but you know what I do love? Sitting around a table with people, creating memories. And you know what really helps do that? Board games. So I guess I do love board games in their use. But without further ado, I want us to go ahead and introduce Bruno Faidutti. Thank you so much for joining us. Bruno, thank you for being here.
You know, I'm already very happy with this night because I didn't know you were making That's Not Lemonade. I didn't look at the publisher's name, but I love this game. I really love this game. It's the kind of game I would have liked to design. You know, it's simple, efficient, direct, interactive, fun. It's a fantastic game. And the second thing, I am completely with you on the idea that what makes board game nice, it's just, you know, things to bring people together around the table and, you know, people you like and just have fun. You just want to have fun with your friends and a board game is perfect. Completely agree with it and go for That's Not Lemonade is a fantastic game.
It's so interesting that you say that. Just so you know, Bruno, we are live on Facebook, on Twitch, and on YouTube right now. So if you're sending in your comments from home and you're watching this, please know that there's, first of all, a delay, but we'll definitely get to your comments. So if you have any questions for either one of us during this, please go ahead and share and be patient. But that being said, I have to tell you, you have everything to do with That's Not Lemonade. It was made by Matt Fantastic. And one of the reasons that...
wonderful guy. He published my Kama Sutra, and he's a really nice guy. I love him. He's completely crazy, but a fantastic guy.
Yes, absolutely fantastic. The name's really fitting. But let me tell you, when I played That's Not Lemonade the first time, it was called You Mad Bro when Matt Fantastic had it, and we developed it and changed the name to That's Not Lemonade. It has everything to do with this game right here.
Yeah. I see there is something. It's absolutely not the same game, but I see the link, yes.
I'll be totally honest. Before That's Not Lemonade, this was the Press Your Luck game that hit the table the most. Of course, now I'm biased because I'm the publisher for That's Not Lemonade. The amount of mileage that I've gotten out of Ink and Gold, it is probably the game in the top 5 that has hit the table the most because it's quick, it's simple, so enjoyable. And that was a collaboration as well. You have a lot of games that you shared the title credits with a lot of other designers because Ink and Gold is Alan Moon, isn't that right?
Yeah. Other design, but I think with designers from all over the world. I've worked with Brazilian, Japanese, Korean, American, Canadians, everything. I like to discuss with people. I like to share the design process. Mm-hmm. It's usually not we are, you know, working together because it's always with people far away. So, you know, we are working just on our table, making our small stuff. And then sharing files and, I don't know what to do with this. Oh, maybe I have an idea, or maybe one of my friends will have, etc., etc. So it's going back and forth, and I like this.
It's such a strong collaboration. And
it's the best way to design tons of game. You know, it's very efficient. I'm never blocked. When I'm blocked, I just ask the co-designer.
That's brilliant. I know so many people can learn from that because just to crush on you a little bit. So I'm going to start with crushing on you if you'll let me, if I haven't already. You have almost 100 games to your name. I just checked out your list of publications today and I counted over 90. So many. I was so excited when I first met you. And I remember when I first met you, I was shocked that you knew me and Two Rooms and a Boom. And we had this before we started filming. I said, did you put Two Rooms and a Boom on your counter on purpose? Is that on your shelf?
Yeah, it's not here on purpose. For the first time this weekend, since this starting of this epidemic, etc., we can move a bit. I was at a small, kind of, let's say, techno festival, something like this weekend. There were something like 200 people.
Wow.
And I said, okay, what can I bring? Maybe we can play all together. So I chose Two Rooms and a Boom and a few other stuff. So it's here because actually we didn't play it, but first opportunity to play something with tons of people this weekend. So I thought it might fit.
Well, you're not alone. I'm sure there's many people that haven't played Two Rooms and a Boom in a while because of the pandemic.
It's a fantastic game. It's kind of live action role-playing game in 5 minutes. I know no other.
I should put that on the box. I really should. So going back to the story, when we first met, I saw your name tag. I recognized your face. I was like, oh my goodness, Bruno Faidutti. Hey, I'm a huge fan. May I give you a hug? And I actually asked. And this is probably like 8, maybe even 10 years ago. That's shocking how long ago that was. And you said, oui. And you gave me the most French hello ever. You grabbed me by the shoulders and kissed me on each cheek, said hello. I was enamored right there and then. Speaking of which, you are French. And I believe you told me before the show you're in France right now, yes?
Yeah, of course. I think everybody is home right now.
But France all your life, or have you lived anywhere besides France?
I've lived a bit in Africa, in Togo, for 2 years.
Okay.
I've been married to a Polish girl for quite long, so I've been a lot in Poland. Half lived in Poland.
Poland?
So
Nice.
Japanese girlfriend, so I'm very often in Japan, and I know quite well. But I cannot say that I live there because I don't really speak the language. I travel a lot, but no, really the only places where I have really lived are France and Togo, and maybe a bit Poland, but not really.
Well, the reason I say this, and I mean no offense by this, and I'm American, so take this with a grain of salt. But I've traveled around, and I've been to France, I've been to Switzerland, been to Germany. I've only ever lived in America. The longest I've stayed overseas in Europe was a month. And you, when I met you, I felt like you were the most French person I'd ever met, even having traveled in France. I thought, now that is a French person.
You're not the first. Mike Selinker told me this a few months ago. It's strange because I'm absolutely not proud of being French. I hate this idea that we have to be proud of our nationality.
Yeah.
We have a stupid discussion in France about, saving the French language from English. I'm sure everything would be much simpler if everybody in the whole world spoke English. So I'm against this use of French, ridiculous old French language, everything. I don't like this. I hate all identities, and especially French identity, because now we have, this nationalists, which are,
nationalism. I'm with you. There's a difference between being a patriot and nationalism. And a lot of people...
I'm not sure there's a difference. I don't like patriots either.
Interesting. So you don't shy away from your point of views. You've shared them, and you shared them on Twitter recently. But before we dive in there, I do have some warm-up questions for you, if you don't mind. I've heard your name pronounced so many different ways, and I want to hear it from the source yourself. I've heard Faidutti. I've heard Faidutti. I've heard Faidutti.
I'm very often asked this question. I never answer because I don't care. and also because I think it's important. I think it's important for me that I don't care. Because if I would care, it would mean that I think that origins are important, that having an Italian name makes me Italian. And I don't like this idea. I like Italy. I like Italian literature. I like Dante. I like everything. I like pizza if you want. And I cook Italian cuisine. But I'm not an Italian. I'm not sure even I'm French. Well, yeah, maybe everybody says I am, so I must be. But I absolutely don't care how you pronounce my name. And I think it's bad to consider these things important. I think I don't like this idea.
I love what you're saying, whether I get in trouble for saying this or not, because everything you're saying so far has a thread of the same philosophy. It seems that you are arguing that everybody is an individual, that you shouldn't just generalize a label that this person is French, game designer, gay, straight, whatever it may be. They are an individual. So as soon as you start applying very specific labels, you're already misrepresenting that individual. Am I correct in saying that, or is that a leap of logic?
Yes. It doesn't mean that we are not in groups. We are in groups. We are people with whom we share this or this or this. So I'd say, in a way, we have identities. We belong to some groups. But it's bad to make this even stronger, consider this important. It's a fact. We have to make do with it. I don't claim, I'm not kind of Ayn Rand individualistic. I don't claim that we are just individuals lost in the world and we have absolutely not this. We are in groups. We have identities, but there's no reason to be proud of anything. There's no reason to be attached to anything. We just have to make do with it.
This reminds me of a conversation I once had. Someone was very into astrology. Are you an Aries? Are you Cancer? Are you Gemini? And I couldn't help but think, don't we already have enough prejudice that we have to dislike someone because of the month they were born in, or like them because of the month they were born in? So I think I understand what you're saying. And it's interesting too, because
in Japan, everybody is classifying people by their blood type. Yeah. And when they ask me my blood type, I say, are you a vampire?
Yeah. In video games, we have a lot of Japanese video games. It's funny because they have the character select and it tells you their blood type. And Americans for a long time did not understand, why do I know this person's blood type until later on? It's interesting because I also have notes that you have a history here of economics, history, and even some sociology. So you've studied these things. Is that correct?
Yeah, I studied mostly economics and history, mostly history, in fact. But I am teaching economics and sociology in high school.
Oh, you're a high school teacher.
Yeah, I'm a high school teacher.
In my mind, I just imagined you just sitting back and collecting royalties from all the wonderful games you've made.
I could, but I think I have a problem with just being a board game designer because board games have no social use, because it's not, it's not something which I like to have a job which I can say that I'm doing something for the society as a whole. I think being a teacher, it's like being maybe a nurse or a policeman or anything. Okay, I'm doing something for the welfare of everyone. And it's important for me when doing board games that they have no social use, because that's what makes them fun. So I want to make something else next to it, which is still useful.
Well, you're preaching to the choir a little bit here, because I am also a teacher. I teach full-time as well.
What do you teach?
Psychology. So I'm a psychology professor at college. I love it so much.
I think the other reason I'm still teaching when I could have left for quite long is that I love it, really.
Love it.
It's a fantastic job.
Love it. I love it. I love the student interactions and I miss it. I'm looking forward to getting back into the classroom. But I want to thank you so much for taking the time and segue into talking about the hot water, if you will. Are you ready to talk about your tweet?
Yeah, of course.
So for context, I'm going to go ahead and put up the tweet, if you don't mind, that you tweeted that got you into this proverbial hot water. It says, business advice: never deal with people who don't drink. They always have something to hide. And right away, you got some comments on this tweet. I've heard this before.
I've seen it. I've seen it attributed to Churchill, but to Baudelaire first, French poet, and it makes sense. Mm-hmm. Churchill perfectly makes sense. To Stalin, perfectly makes sense as well. And to Humphrey Bogart, and it makes sense. And I've been told it's a Polish proverb. Latin proverb, which says in vino veritas, it's the same also in a way.
This is a different one, but similar. The Rockefeller one is a business tactic. You should take your business associates out to eat, and if they salt their food before they taste it, you should not do business with them. I'm not sure. Have you heard this one before? Have you heard
Never.
That? Because they haven't even tasted the food. How do they know if it needs salt, if it needs pepper? But there's a natural response to that. What if you really like salt? Or maybe you've had the dish before. This isn't your first time at that restaurant, and now you just lost a business partner with Rockefeller, etc. So there's these very interesting caveats to these. So it's a very wide brushstroke to say, don't do business with someone who doesn't.
Of course, it's very wide brush. Of course, it's kind of tongue-in-cheek, half-joke formula. But I still think there is something, because the reason I say this is that the few, I'm in the gaming business for about 40 years now. Mm-hmm. I think I've made very, very, very few dishonest people. I've had very, very, very few bad experiences with publishers. I had a few one because, we're a nice guy, but maybe not very competent, unlucky. This can happen.
It happens.
But it happens. Really bad guys, I'd say maybe I met 3 or 4. And when I think about them, so I all the same model, in their late 20s or early 30s, just out of business school, suit and tie, and thinking they had understood everything. And it's the kind of guy where the first thing they say when they meet you is, I don't drink, I don't smoke.
It's the first thing they say.
Almost, yes.
Almost. Hey, I don't drink, I don't smoke. Okay.
I admit it was a bit of a joke when I said this. It's excessive because there are people who don't drink for lots of good reasons, especially for health reasons. And But I'd say this because, I don't remember who and exactly in what context, but someone on Twitter was saying that we should forbid, we should not make business meeting with alcohol in game fairs. And I'm very rarely drunk. At the Essen fair, even for a few years, I didn't go to the so-called French party because there are too many drunk people, and I said it was too much. But I really like this. I think when I have a meeting with a publisher or with fellow game designer or everything, a few beers, a few glasses of wine, it helps things go smoothly. And when it cannot happen, when I have to have a meeting at Starbucks to work on a game or to discuss a contract, for me, it's not the same. So I can understand the reason why
you can understand why you would say that and why people would be upset about it.
Yeah, of course I understand it. But really for me, still now, when I see someone before starting a serious discussion, drinking a glass of wine and having a beer, I say, okay, he's ready to get a bit loose. He's not afraid of saying something he doesn't want to say. And for me, it's a good sign.
We have something similar, a cultural thing we're proud of Cleveland, Ohio. I'm from Cleveland, and we, by many accounts, have been known as the city that swears the most. And I've heard people say, in fact, I can't quote the source, there have been studies that have shown that people that swear are more honest. So when I hear someone swear, just casually, not in an argument, but just casually swear.
It's fun because I don't remember where, but a few weeks ago, I've read a very serious sociological study showing that people who swear were more honest. I have to find the source. It was something French.
But when I hear someone swear, there is a part of me that I'm willing to admit relaxes, because I realize they're not as filtered, they're not as controlled, they're being more vulnerable. I can see that. But here's the issue that I want to bring up. And there's comments that I'll get to. I promise you I will. The issue is, I think, a couple of things to point out. The biggest one is who you are when you say this. There's that cliche expression, with great power comes great responsibility. There is an argument that because you're Bruno Faidutti.
No, I don't think anyone can think this is a completely serious business advice. I'd say it's a half serious business advice.
But a lot of people don't know that.
I don't think I have great power.
And that's something that someone with great power arguably has said before.
Of course.
You know, someone who says, oh, money doesn't mean anything are usually people that have money. So a lot of people that say, I don't have power, people that may have power, etc. Because, as I already said...
Money. I don't have power. I don't think so.
I'm going to correct you, and I'm going to let you know that you have more power than you realize. And I'll agree with you. I don't think it's to the level where you are making and breaking someone's career. However, especially nowadays, people are looking at game designers for influence and for help and trying to get this culture of inclusivity. And so there's this aspect of holding you up on a pedestal. And so when you say something that can be seen as offensive, it's extra offensive. And I think there was a point too that someone made that it wasn't so much the comment, it was the response to the comment. And I have those responses here too, and I'm going to put them up. You said, I should have never have posted this. 2 publishers already messaged me asking if I was thinking about them.
Yeah, but they messaged me jokingly. You know, one of them was Portal. It was Mary, the wife of Ignacy, who messaged me.
Would you have a game coming out with soon?
Yeah, I have a game coming out. And it's fun because, actually, indeed, Ignacy, the boss of Portal, doesn't drink. But Mary, his wife, drinks like Helen. We've drunk a lot together, and so it was kind of a joke when she messaged this to me. Well, half a joke, because I think they were afraid that I had posted this on Facebook just as a reference to a discussion we had the day before about the game, and I was not completely happy with something, and it had absolutely nothing to do with it.
So to be clear, you have worked with people who do not drink, and you will
of course.
Of course. In fact, the story
Of
is...
course, but I'm wary of people who do not drink. Often they are really nice people, but I'm wary. If I know that someone is ready to drink with me, I'm trustful, maybe not completely trustful, but I have a better feeling if I see someone starting the discussion with "I don't drink and I don't smoke," etc., etc.
Right.
It's linked with the smoking, because I can talk about this, this kind of social pressure of not smoking, and it's what has
absolutely ton of pressure. A lot of people
made the 10 last years of my dad's life absolutely horrible, and similar thing is happening now with drinking. I'm living on the 5th floor. On the fourth floor, there is a very nice old lady. She's 85 now. And yes, she drinks too much. I know. And I do what I can to have her drink a bit less. But everybody is looking her down for this. And she's someone really nice, adorable, no problem, who had a wonderful life and tell wonderful stories. And it's terrible. And I'm afraid that the same thing which happened with smoking is now happening with alcohol. And
that you take issue with. You don't want alcohol to be canceled, like
I know
cigarette
that
smoking.
alcohol is not good for health. That's a real problem. Tobacco is not good for health. And, and here in France, we have a health system which is financed by the state and by taxes.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't pay more taxes because I drink. Maybe I should. So I would have no problem having to pay more taxes before I drink. But I don't want people to say me that I should not drink. It's my choice.
It's a classic argument of freedom versus security. Because in a pure, secure society, there's less freedom, and with more freedom comes less security. So you're saying people should be able to drink.
It's freedom versus security. It's also kind of moral imposition. It's bad to drink. It's bad to smoke.
That's the social, almost shaming aspect of drinking.
Yeah.
If you see someone drinking, etc.
I hate this.
It's interesting because as a non-drinker, I have felt through going, and I'm older, I'm in my middle age. Growing up, I got a lot of shame towards me for not drinking. I've been pressured to drink.
Yes, but I think this has really changed. I don't know exactly in the US, but here I think this has really changed, let's say, these 5 last years. And now I'm noticing, when I'm in parties with friends, I say, what is the best thing to say if you want to be considered someone really nice? It's not I don't drink. It's I'm trying to stop. This is, oh, what a nice guy. We will help you, etc., etc., etc. And wow, it's kind of making everything about morals.
It shouldn't be so much a moral decision as it is a personal preference, which I want to point out. I think this is very important. I think this is the difference between you and I having a conversation and your tweet. Because your tweet sounded like law. This is a comment. But with you and me having this conversation, you're saying, I feel, this is my preference. This is how I think, not this is the way it should be.
Maybe I should leave Twitter and stay on Facebook, because on Facebook you can post longer things and discuss, etc., etc. And I've noticed with this, I posted the same thing on Facebook, and we had a very polite and civilized discussion on Facebook, and I got tons of insult on Twitter. And actually, I don't know if it's because the crowd on Facebook is older and there is a generation issue.
Maybe. I don't know.
Or because it's possible to make longer posts and have more organized discussion. I don't know.
I did make a list of reasons not to drink, just for conversational reasons. So with that blanketed statement, you've already mentioned medical reasons, which may be liver, kidney disease, maybe, I'm assuming you also included alcoholism in there if someone's an alcoholic, etc. Religion is a very big reason. For instance, Mormons, Muslims.
I'm a Marxist. I hate religion. I've had a Christian upbringing. My parents were Christian, not the worst kind, kind of leftist, half Marxist maybe. But I've believed in this absurdity, because it's absurd, for very long, until I was something like 21, 22. Mm-hmm. I consider myself to be a victim of religion, and I'm at war with all religions.
I have to give you credit for standing your ground. Not that I'm saying I totally agree with everything you're saying, to be clear, but there is credit for you being so bold on social media to say, I am a Marxist, I'm against religion, etc., because that is a definite stance to take. And I'm old,
I have some money, I don't care. Maybe I wouldn't have said this 10 years ago.
And that, I think, is what a lot of people are going to take issue with. And it's your choice, because you can be as offensive as you want to be, or as friendly as you want to be, etc. And you have that right, that freedom to do it. But I think a lot of people want some acknowledgement that comes from a place of security, because there's so many people that aren't in a safe place where they can't come out and say they're Marxist. They can't come out and say...
I completely agree with you. It's true that the reason I am becoming, I'd say this last month, more open about what I think on lots of issues, it's that because I am safer economically, not psychologically. It doesn't always come together, but I am safer. I've started to discuss more seriously with my students on issues I would never have talked with them before, because I don't care if I'm thrown out. It's not important for me now. I don't care anymore.
Do you care if you get thrown out of the board game industry? Do you care if people don't buy your games? Do you care if you get canceled?
Yeah, I care a bit because it would be less. It's still what makes me living, but I have some money aside, and I don't think it will happen. But of course, I don't like to be hated. I like people. I want people to like me and I want to convince people because I think I'm right. That's very simple.
I think here is the really big important question. If you didn't have that financial security, would you be so open then?
Probably not.
That's a bold admission, and I give you credit for that. I think that is a perspective that I appreciate you owning. Are you ready for some comments?
Of course.
Okay, let's get into some comments because I'm sure I've missed some things, and it's to the point where I have to scroll because a lot of comments have been coming in. David Waldman says, people's critique that having business be so associated with alcohol and an environment with a lack of control is not fair to people who don't want to participate in it. Also, when women, people of color, and people from other backgrounds say they're uncomfortable with alcohol and you treat those concerns dismissively, it comes off as rude and patronizing.
Yeah, I have two answers. First is that I know that I can be patronizing, no problem. I know about it, no problem. But on the other hand, I'm not sure that not drinking is an obstacle to go into the board game business. I almost think I think it's not an obstacle at all now. I know lots of game designers who drink and would drink much more than me. I won't give names, but I know game designers.
I do too. I mean, it's not uncommon to see someone inebriated at a board game convention.
I know game designers who don't drink at all, and they are as successful as I am. Antoine Boza doesn't drink, no problem.
When you're faced with controversy, there's usually three options that someone has. One option is do nothing, just be silent, and there's different levels to each of these. The other is apologize, and the third is to double down and state your case. So instead of apologizing, say, this is why I said it. And the interesting thing is, I'm talking to you, I think you're definitely more in the third camp, where you're not apologizing, you're doubling down. But at the same time, there's a lot of acknowledgement going on, which is a big part of an apology. So it's very interesting.
I apologize if people thought that I was saying that everybody who doesn't drink is a bad guy. And that therefore they are a bad guy. Okay, I apologize. That's not what I wanted to say. And if they felt this, I apologize. But I maintain that I'm always wary when people look too clean and say that they don't drink and don't smoke.
Now, that is a you thing. Is that so you that you would recommend it for everyone, that they should be wary of?
Wary of people who look really too clean.
Too clean, too controlled. I have to ask then, what was it about me that made you open up to me? Are you
because you don't look like this. You don't look like maybe you don't. I didn't know that you don't drink. It's not a problem, but you don't look like this.
A lot of people think I'm drunk when I'm not. Like, that's always been the thing too. I've heard all my life, someone's been drinking too much.
There are people, there are people who don't need alcohol to get drunk.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Are you ready for the next comment? Tyler Brown, Sir Tabletop Tyler, he says that Bruno is definitely in a place of power in board games and does have a responsibility to be accepting and welcoming of others who don't have the same opportunities and privileges. So let's suppose you get someone who is a woman, maybe a person of color, who also doesn't drink. What Tyler, I believe, is suggesting, and again, Tyler, if I'm misstating your statement, please let me know, is saying that it's almost your responsibility for the well-being of the board game industry to be more accepting of these individuals and not write them off immediately because they may be too clean.
Well, I was thinking mostly about publishers because I deal with publishers.
Got it.
So game designer is another thing. And, actually, last week, I've recorded an almost 1 hour video of advice for wannabe game designers in Iran, where I have many friends because my games were here and I've been there and I love these people. And of course, they don't drink, or they're not supposed to. But we say at the beginning, I've worked with game designers from everywhere. I'm probably among the relatively well-known game designers, the one who is the most open to accepting collaboration from people I absolutely don't know, I've never heard of. When I got emails, I have a look. If it looks interesting, I don't say, okay, I don't know this guy. I can got a mail from a guy in anywhere. Okay, looks fun. Why not? Let's discuss this. Most time it goes nowhere. Sometimes it does. I think I really help individuals as much as I can.
I believe you.
I really think I am open and I help everyone.
I believe you, and I believe that you believe that
I'm
as well.
probably the game designer who was we were talking about, women, persons of color, etc., etc. I'm probably the board game designer who has the most the male board game designer who has the most.
I think you're right. I think you're right. I don't have the data to back it up in front of me, but I have seen your name next to so many others, almost to the point of frustration when I go to brag about having met you. It's like, did he design this game? Yes. Well, with someone else. Did he design this game? Yes. And with someone else. So you're always sharing credits. I can see that. I think the big thing is, again, going back, when you're put on a pedestal, whether you realize it or not in the industry, you're held to a higher level of accountability. And the big question of this episode is culture an acceptable excuse for accountability?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
The question is all these reasons we listed good enough to give you a pass? I think that's what I'm saying. Is like, are these reasons, if someone's watching this video right now, or even after we're done recording, do you think all the reasons you've given are enough for them to say, you know what? I think he gets a pass. I see what he's saying. I see what he's coming from. I have my own opinion, but...
Well, I let's say, I hope. I don't know. Now it's for listener to judge. But, we're talking about cultural differences. It's very strange because I always say that I think we vastly exaggerate cultural differences. Mm-hmm. I've worked with Japanese, with Koreans, with people from South America, from Russia.
And you find more in common than different.
Yeah, much more. Mm-hmm. And I really think there is a trend this last years to exaggerate this. But it doesn't mean that it's exactly the same. There are always, I'd say there are many differences, but none of them is really important. It's many minor differences that, okay, we've not learned the same history, we've not read the same books, we've not listened to the same music. It's lots of very, very minor differences, but we all think in very, very similar ways. But these differences, these small differences can be also in the way, things are more or less accepted.
Yeah.
We were talking about alcohol, something which I find completely crazy, and which I think may be the reason of the American problem with alcohol. that you have this drinking age of 21.
I was going to say that we have a drinking age of 21 and we have guns.
Yeah, it's completely, in France, drinking age officially it's 18. It's even not drinking age; it's buying alcohol.
Right. I learned this in my European travels right away. I saw plenty
in many families, I think my parents, and I was not, my parents used to put some wine in my water when I was, I think, 13 or 14.
Same. Yeah, I saw 13, 14-year-olds.
And it's the way you learn to deal with this also. It's not it's not a fundamental cultural difference because we are the same and we think the same way, but we don't know the same thing. We don't have the same references, and we don't understand something the same way just because the references behind are not the same. Because what here we think about alcohol is not exactly the same. I don't drink when I'm in Japan because I don't like the way they drink, which is mostly be completely drunk on Saturday night and that's all. And not doing anything else, not drinking anything else the rest of the week. That's not the way I understand drinking, not the way I like it.
I love the idea, and this is what I thoroughly believe. There's some very strong beliefs that I have that I am willing to say publicly. And one is that humanistic ideal that you have mentioned, that at the core, we're all the same. We're all trying to do the best we can. Certainly, people may get misguided, but at the core of it all, we all have a heart. We all try our best. And I think that's a beautiful sentiment. And I think to almost wrap this up, let's get the benefit of hindsight. Let's rewind time and talk about what we've learned. So I want to ask you, if you could do it all over again with the tweet, would you do it again? Would you do it differently?
I think I would probably do it in a way that would make more clear.
Do you know how you would say that?
It's half a joke, that it's a reference. I'd probably make it, with a Latin quote, in vino veritas or ecclesiastes, bonum vinum et musica gratificant cor homini. Something in way today, okay, there is this saying, maybe there is something to it.
Beautifully said. If I was your publicist, I would just say, always leave room for removal. As a psychologist, we talk about the power of I feel, having I feel statements. Instead of saying, this is a fact, you say, I feel this.
I hate this because
I love it.
I know about it. I've talked about it. I talk about it with my students very often, and I tell them not to do it because I tell them that there's no point in adding words which don't really add meaning.
That's a good point, because Tyler is saying something similar. Tyler Brown says in the comments, shouldn't people also be more understanding and discerning when interpreting / reading social media posts, at least equally to those writing them? Meaning, and I had Matt Lees on the show before, and I talked about journalistic responsibility of saying, this is my opinion. And he said the same thing, that you should know that it's my opinion. It's coming from my mouth. I shouldn't always have to say that. However, I think there's room for both worlds here, because specifically when it comes to matters of opinion in other people, because there's a lot of projection that happens. I'm going on a tangent here to the point where I'm taking my shirt off. Excuse me. I'm getting warm.
Well, I'm taking to the point where I'm going for a second beer.
Okay, go for it. He's gone. I'm not sure if you can still hear me. Can you still hear me, Bruno?
Yeah, I hear you.
Good. All right, great. So I think it's really important, especially when it comes into relationships, because when you say you did this, you don't know that's correct. For instance, like, you're mad. You did this deliberately. You did this viciously. Because people could say that about you. They could say in that tweet, Bruno was saying that because he believes nobody should be sober at conventions.
I've never said,
You've never said that.
I never said that. And one thing I found really harmful in the comments on Twitter, people were understanding things about getting drunk. I was never talking about getting drunk. I was
Right.
talking about just having a drink. It's not the same.
And I think that's the power of saying, I feel like he was saying this. Imagine they had done that. Instead of saying, he's saying we should get drunk, imagine they said, I feel or I think he's saying we should get drunk. That leaves room for correction. I really wish that people were not so afraid of being wrong. I wish people weren't afraid of being wrong so that people can acknowledge it, saying like, hey, you're mistaken, because that is how we learn. If we are wrong and we can learn from it, but so many people are so scared of being wrong that when they are wrong, they run away from it. They're afraid to say I was wrong. And I think that is one of the biggest problems. David Waldman says, we don't think your intent, Bruno, was to be offensive, but people still had negative reactions to reading your comments.
Obviously, he's right.
Obviously. And that comes from a lot of respect, because he also says that people respect you so much, they want you to know that your comments are interpreted as offensive so that you have an opportunity to correct them. Almost as if you have a booger on your face. If I say, I would hope someone would tell me, hey, you've got a little something. I would hope someone would say that same thing. People respect you so much. They wanted you to know, hey, you've got a little booger in your comment. I do have one comment that I didn't want to bypass, and I apologize that we're backpedaling because this is from Jennifer Abley, and she's quoting Mike Selinker. So I'm not sure how familiar you are with Mike Selinker, but she says, Mike Selinker said it well. Alcohol is a toxin. When introducing a toxin to a situation, you can potentially introduce toxic behavior. Toxic behavior is something that has been rampant in the board game industry, and insisting that publishers must engage in drinking alcohol rings poorly to those who have experienced that toxic behavior as a result of alcohol. Again, she's speaking to the individuals that have had dangerous interactions with alcohol, and there's many situations that arguably may have never happened if alcohol wasn't involved.
It's true. It's true. First, I would say that it's even more true with cocaine, far more. But
I would say cocaine is much more illegal than alcohol all over the place. So the comparison...
Well, there is some on game fairs.
I'm maybe they smell me coming because I haven't been offered cocaine yet at a game fair, and that's not an invitation. If anyone's don't offer me cocaine, no thanks.
I hate cocaine. Never do it. I hate it really. That's true. I think people who drink have to be careful. You know, that's also what I was saying. That in a way, very often people who don't drink, very often, some people who don't drink, because they know they might be bad guys if they drink too much.
If I'm being really honest, I think that's why I don't drink. I've never been drunk, but I have a family history, no offense to my family, where I've seen them being very bad drunks. And I've seen enough of that where I said, not for me. I don't want to risk being those members of my family that I've seen not handle their alcohol well.
So I think when there is someone you like who drinks and who you know he might become a bad guy. I'm thinking of a friend of mine whom I like a lot, and I know he's not good with alcohol. And okay, if we see him drinking, we try to slow him.
Yeah.
But I don't think that getting rid of alcohol is a solution.
Is the solution.
It's sure that it will make some situations safer.
Yeah.
It will make some other situation. I think we have to find a way to, and it's not only for game fair. I think as a general society in the world, and not only with alcohol, same with all drugs, we have to make ways so that things work, are good for everyone, and no excess, but not say, don't do this, it's bad.
Is this a fair statement then?
On the situation.
Is this fair to say that on all sides we need to be responsible? We need to be responsible once we're imbibing, but also when we're watching others imbibe, etc. So what do
Of
we
course.
set others?
Yeah.
How do we encourage? Okay.
You know, drinking is very rarely something you do just by yourself. So you have to be careful. It means also taking care of people who are at the risk of drinking too much.
Yeah.
I know that if I drink too much, well, I'm not dangerous, but I will have a terrible hangover for 4 days because I have a very, very low blood pressure.
Oh yeah, you mentioned that. I read that in your blog that you have a low blood pressure.
The only effect of very low blood pressure is terrible hangovers.
And so you really have to monitor your alcoholic intake.
Yeah.
Here's what I love. Bruno, I love, because we got to wrap this up. I love that you've come on the show. You've been so open. You've been so honest. I love that you've had this conversation. And I also love that you're acknowledging that there's responsibility on both sides, not only in your own imbibing, but also what you say to others in regard to indulging in alcohol and other drugs. And I'm glad that you acknowledge that. So I really thank you for coming on to this show.
You're welcome.
Bruno, you have a project coming up, and I would be remiss if you came on as my guest, talked about your tweet, Hot Water, without giving you an opportunity to promote your next project or projects. So I want to give you the floor to feel free to talk about what you have going on next.
Okay. Right. Let's talk about Dreadful Circus, because I think it's a really original game, you know?
Okay.
This last year's, many of my games, and it was in part deliberate, were a bit derivative from older stuff and mixed stuff, etc., etc.
That's true for most games. You can usually see whether they meant it or not, that it's parts of other
I
games.
think there is an auction system which is brand new, completely new. I've never seen anywhere.
Wow.
And which makes the game really, really fun. One player is putting something on auction. Well, in fact, actually 2 players are putting stuff on auction. And you have a small box in which you put what you are ready to pay for it.
Okay.
It can be with money and gems of different colors and different stuff, but you put what you want in your box.
Got it.
And then you put your box in front of one of the 2 stuff which are on sale.
Right. It's like a blind auction so far. I've done this in real life. I like it.
The problem is that the seller now has all the boxes in front of him.
Mm-hmm.
He knows which player gave what box, because there is your color on the box.
Got it.
So you open a box, you look at it, you say, okay, I take it or not. But if you don't take it and go for another box, you cannot come back.
Ah-ha-ha!
And that's terrible, because it means that you have to choose. The first important decision is to decide in what order you will look at the offers.
Yes.
Because, you know, you have 4 offers and you refuse the 3 first one, and maybe the last one is bullshit.
It's a beautiful twist. A beautiful twist. A lot of drama where you of regret. Oh my goodness. Why didn't I go with Jennifer's box? Oh my goodness. I should have. I love it.
It makes fantastic auctions.
I love it. Do you know when it's coming out? Dreadful Circus?
I don't know exactly when, but I think quite soon.
Okay.
I think quite soon.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about before we go? Because I want to make sure that you feel that you've been heard.
Well, I hope I've been heard, that's all.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having the conversation. You at home, thank you for commenting. I will be back next week. We're here every Tuesday at 8:30, so check us out. And I think with that being said, this episode is... And then Bruno, what is French for finished?
Terminé, or just fini.
Fini!
Terminé.
Sounds
Fini.
great. Yay!
Fini.
Thank you so much. All right, have a great night, everyone. Thank you again, Bruno. Bye,
Goodbye.
everyone.